Hey YouTubers, we have once again another Glock. This one here is the G42. Comes with most of the standard accompaniments. It has a brush, rod. It comes with 2 magazines, 6-round magazines. It does not come with a mag loader like a lot of other Glocks. I don't believe a standard mag loader will fit it, and they have not made one for it yet. So I'm not sure if they will, but does not have one at this time. It's technically a Gen 4, but it's a little bit different in some aspects because it is a completely different pistol. Most Glocks, in fact, pretty much all Glocks up to this point, with the exception of the Slimline, which are a little bit different, but even the Slimline fall into this category, most Glocks are essentially the same. They're chopped off a little bit, some things shortened, some of the parts inside are changed a little bit, but for the most part it's essentially the same gun, just the frame is a little different and the area from here and back is the same. From here forward is different. Some are shorter, some are longer. Same. This is completely redesigned. It is essentially a Glock. It's the same basic design, but they've changed some things on it. Externally, the grip is a little different. It does resemble a Gen 4, and it pretty much is, but it's not nearly as aggressive as Gen 4. Here's a close-up of the grip. Unlike other Gen 4s, it does not have the finger grip right here, and the shape of the thumb rest is slightly different. And like some of the compact, or some of the subcompacts do not have accessory rails. A lot of them don't, and this one does not either. Which, in a small package like this, I wouldn't really want one. It's only 1 pin, does not have the 2 pins right here. Internally, I took some pictures, and I will post those pictures to show you some of the differences. The block right here is going to be different. It is shaped different. The spring on the mag catch is a little different. The shape of the trigger block back here is a little different. The safety right here, the trigger safety, or the firing pin safety, is a little bit different. It's shaped different on the inside, and I will show you that. This here is a little different. The hole back here, the way it fits in is changed a little bit, and that's just due to size. The magazine sits in here different also compared to other ones. It's flush up front, just has a little bit different configuration. I just went through the Glock Armorers course in July of this year, 2014, just in case you're watching this video at a later date. And at the time they said all parts for the G42 were going towards manufacturing new guns. So at that time they weren't shipping extra parts out to gunsmiths and armorers and things like that. So they had told us if as an armorer or a gunsmith, if you were to receive this pistol in with anything broken on it, that it would need to be shipped off. And they didn't recommend doing any major repairs or anything like that on it at the time, doing it yourself. I'm sure that's going to change. It might have already changed by now. But that will definitely change in the near future. The G42 is a little bit bigger than some of the other new 380s on the market, such as, here's a Ruger LCP to compare it to. quite a bit bigger than the LCP. In fact, it's essentially the same size as the LC9. It's actually a little bit smaller than the LC9. And here's a little throwback here. Here's my Walther PPK. It's essentially the, it's mostly the same size. Of course, the Glock is going to be a lot lighter. As I said before, it does hold 6 rounds, so it's not an extremely high capacity either. Now, when the G42 first came out, I was completely not interested in it. I had no interest in purchasing another 380. I already had the LCP. I figured that's about as small as it gets. I really don't need another 380, especially one as big as this. I thought this was kind of big for a 380 because there's a lot of 9mm out in the market. And when I was going through the Glock Armorer's course, I handled one for the first time. I didn't get to shoot it, but I held it. And at that time, I was a little bit intrigued by it. It feels incredibly nice in the hand, in fact. It feels really nice. But at that time, I was still really not sold on it. I really didn't plan on getting one. In fact, I've had a lot of people ask me about the G42. A lot of people know I'm writing a Glock book, and aside from that, I'm fairly knowledgeable on guns, more so than the average person. And same with Glocks. I'm a little bit more knowledgeable on Glocks than the average person. So a lot of people ask my opinion on guns. And they asked me about the G42. And I said, no, I wouldn't really buy it with the G26 on the market. Because it's a 9mm, it holds more rounds. Why not buy it? That all changed when I shot this. Like I said, I was a little intrigued at the Armorer's course, but that still didn't sell me. Now when I fired this, I was sold. And I understand why Glock made it as big as it did. They took a balance. And yes, they can make it as small as an LCP, but they wanted to balance that with shootability. And I own the LCP. I have fired the Bodyguard, the Smith & Wesson. And I've fired a couple other 380s, and those tiny little LCP size 380s are pretty wicked to shoot. I have big hands, and to be honest, it's hard for a big-handed person to hold on to that little thing. For me, I have to hold on for dear life and pull the trigger. For one thing, the trigger sucks. So you really have to hold on. And it's not a pleasant shooting experience. The LCP, you go to the range, you might shoot a box or 2, maybe 3 at the most. This right here, the G42, you can shoot this all day. It's comfortable. The recoil on it is very mild. The recoil on this is the way you would think a 380 should shoot. It's very mild recoil. In fact, this is better to shoot than the Walther PPK. The Walther PPK, even though it's heavier, I hate shooting it because this right here, this wears out the web of my hand. After about a box of ammo, a box or 2 of ammo, the next day, this is really sore back here. But with the G42, you don't get any of that. It's extremely comfortable to shoot. So yes, they did sacrifice a little bit of size, but if you were to shoot one, I think you would see the trade-off is well worth it. A little bit bigger, but much more shootable. A lot of people, especially when they're getting new shooters into shooting, especially women or petite men, they always they always recommend getting one of the little guns, like the little LCP or the LC9. You know, hey, small hand, small gun. But that's one of the worst things you can do. As I said, those things are pretty torturous to shoot. And those little guns I've seen actually push people away from shooting. They don't want to shoot them. My wife doesn't like shooting those little guns. This one here is actually the gun you could recommend for those people because it is small and comfortable to shoot. But let me emphasize that's not just for new shooters. I mean, anybody can carry this gun. But I did such a turnaround on this gun. I actually bought this gun. There was no way I was going to buy another 380. But I ended up buying this gun. I love it. I absolutely love it. For the most part, I will stick to my 9mm, my G26, but in instances where I do want something smaller, I'll carry this. And I'll also use this in a situation where I feel like I might need a backup gun to my G26. Here's a G26, and they're essentially the same size, or similar in size, I should say. The G26, it is a little bit longer, but the grip length is similar. The grip length going this way. Grip length going this way, the G26 is bigger. But width-wise, it's a pretty big difference, and I know it doesn't look like a huge difference, but when you are carrying, it is a difference. It is a big difference. Glock markets this as a single stack, but it is not really a single stack. You can see right here the staggered columns, and when you load it, you can see that they're staggered. You know, and I've noticed the same thing, some of their other supposedly single stack, like the G36, and they even have the dots all in a row on the G36, but if you look carefully, they are staggered slightly. So it is basically a single stack, but not quite. The specs on the G42, unloaded it weighs 13.76 ounces. Loaded it weighs 14.36 ounces. The trigger pull on here is 5.5 pounds. Trigger travel is 0.49. As I said before, it holds 6 rounds. The length is 5.94 inches. Width is 0.94 inches. And sight radius is 4.92 inches. The height is 4.13 inches, the slide width is 0.83 inches, and the barrel length is 3.25 inches. And I wanted to stress the slide width, because when Glock writes down the width of their handguns, they mention it's 0.94 inches, which is under an inch. But the part that prints, which is right here, the thickness of the slide, and really the grips right here, that's only 0.83 inches. And that's really, really narrow. Now this part here, that's more of where you get the thicker regions. This is pretty much where you get the 0.94 inches. But this doesn't really stick out when you're carrying it. In fact, this kind of digs into either your fabric or your holster or your skin, whatever it is you're carrying. So that really, it's not really, you don't really count that. One thing that I really like about this G42, in comparison to the other Glocks, if you're used to carrying a Glock, this will be a 380 that you'll want if you want a 380, because operation is the same. The location of the where you manipulate the firearm is the same. The mag release is here, the slide catch is here, and the trigger is right here. It's the same. It's in the same exact location. If you close your eyes and wrap your finger around a G19 and then froze in position, hypothetically, and somebody were to came and take the G19 out of your hand and slip this in your hand, your fingers wouldn't move. They would be in the exact same location. And most importantly, manipulating the trigger is the same exact manipulation as another Glock. It weighs 5.5 pounds. The movement of travel is 0.49 inches. It's the same across the board on all Glocks. Now there are a few Glocks, and there's a lot of variables in this, but there are a few Glocks with lighter or heavier trigger pull. But those are special circumstances, and those are specific models of Glocks. All the other Glocks, and the ones that are available to civilians, ones that you would carry, they all have 5.5 pounds of trigger pull, which is pretty consistent, and I've measured them, it's very consistent. Some guns, it fluctuates a lot. It might have a set trigger pull, but that's an average. The Glock trigger pull is pretty much 5.5 pounds every time. So the trigger pull is the same, and the length of travel of the trigger is the same. And something else that I like about this is the reset. It's got the same Glock reset, which is a good reset right there. It's about halfway. Glock has an excellent reset, and for you know, some people complain about the trigger. I don't. I happen to like the trigger, but a lot of people complain about the Glock trigger. But one thing that's tough to complain about is the reset. Of all the pistols on the market, the polymer pistols that are comparable to a Glock, the Smith & Wessons, the Rugers, pretty much everybody, I don't think any of them have as good a trigger reset as the Glock. I mean, with that trigger reset, you can put some lead down range fast. You can't do that with the M&P. I've read some gun blogs online about issues that people have had with the Glock, with the G42, and most of it, it's feed problems, and it has to do with overpowered and underpowered charges. If you shoot plus P out of it, people have said they've had issues. On the other hand, I've heard of issues if you shoot lower than 90 grains. And some of the weaker powered 380s, people have had problems with. I haven't had any issues with it. I've put some federal ammo down range, the 88 grain and the 90 grain, and I have not had any issues with it at all. I put 150 rounds through it. I took a buddy of mine as a sheriff's deputy in Milwaukee County, and we put 150 rounds through this puppy, some federal and some blazer, which I normally don't shoot blazer, but it's all I could find in 380, so I bought some, and 150 rounds, not one hiccup. Just, it rolled through all of them perfect. Now they weren't plus P, but just standard ammo, no problems at all. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know. Semper Fi, and God bless.
Hey folks, I have a Glock 42 that I'm going to be shooting today, and the target's 7 yards away. I'm shooting some American Eagle 380. This is the 95 grain FMJ. We have one a little low. I did have one flyer right here.